where I come from, the mandate of the two special advisors that our office supports, and then speak a little bit about contemporary challenges, let's say, in prevention of genocide, focusing on issues of incitement and how it relates to media, since that's the focus of your conference. I will try to keep it a bit short so that maybe you'll have more time for questions. If there are specific issues that you're interested in, I can focus more on that in my answers. So the office that I work for is the United Nations Office on Prevention of Genocide and the Responsibility to Protect, and it supports two special advisors to the UN Secretary General. The first one, as George mentioned, is the Special Advisor on Prevention of Genocide, which currently is Mr. Adam Dieng. And the other one is the Special Advisor on the Responsibility to Protect, which currently there is no Special Advisor on that post. It used to be Mr. Ivan Simonovic, but he left earlier this year. Sorry. Is it okay? Can you hear me? Otherwise, just tell me and I'll try to speak louder. So the two mandates on genocide prevention and R2P, they were created around the same time. And the Special Advisor on Prevention of Genocide was actually created on the initiative of the former Secretary General, the late Kofi Annan, and it was largely in result of or in response to the failures of the UN and the international community to prevent and stop the genocide in Rwanda and also the genocide in Srebrenica in Bosnia in the 1990s. And as I'm sure you know, after that there was a large internal UN reform initiative led by Kofi Annan, and the creation of this post was one of the results of that reform. So the Special Advisor on Prevention of Genocide, his mandate is really to be, you can call it a catalyst within the United Nations system to monitor situations across the globe where there are risks or early warning signs of genocide, and to raise alarm within the United Nations system, but also externally to member states, so that appropriate preventative action can be taken. This is of course closely linked to the Special Advisor on Responsibility to Protect, which is another separate kind of concept that also came out of this whole process. It actually came out of the 2005 World Conference, where all member states came together and agreed on their responsibility to protect populations from atrocity crimes, which is a term we use to refer to genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. So in supporting these two mandates, the work that our office does is of course monitoring situations across the globe so that we can advise the special advisors who then do advocacy. They try to raise awareness on what genocide is and how to prevent it. And if you are familiar with Mr. Adam Dieng, you know that he speaks out quite often on issues of concern. So from our perspective, when we talk about prevention of genocide and other atrocity crimes, our experience throughout the 10 years that the office, 13 years actually, that the office has been in place, is that these crimes are not single events. They're not random incidents that happen without any planning or forethought. They're normally part of a process, and a process which requires planning and also several steps. So with that thinking in mind, prevention of these crimes also needs to be a process That's the message that we're always trying to put forward. That prevention, to be effective, needs to happen long before any international crimes such as genocide or crimes against humanity are imminent. The best prevention is early prevention. And our office has, through our experience and through research based on case studies and incidents in the past where these crimes have been committed, have developed a kind of framework of analysis, which is the basis for the work that we do to identify situations of concern. And this framework of analysis, it identifies 14 different, let's say, risk factors, acknowledging that they exist in almost in all societies, I would say, and that to do effective prevention, every society needs to assess their own situation in terms of, in relation to these risk factors, and take appropriate action to prevent it before, to kind of halt before it could turn into something more serious. So unfortunately, if I wasn't sure how many people would be here. I could have brought more copies, but I only brought one, but it's available on our website. It's a quite interesting tool if you're interested in this topic, because it's a framework of analysis that applies, that you can use in any context really. And some of the risk factors, just to give you an idea, of course, the most, let's say the most common risk factors is the situation of an armed conflict, where the risk of atrocity crimes being committed is of course much higher. But there are also several other risk factors that are important to look at. And one of them, of course, especially when you talk about prevention of genocide, is hate speech and incitement to violence, which is also among the indicators for the risk factors in this framework of analysis. And in this regard, of course, because it is such an important risk factor of this crime, it's an area where our office, but also other parts of the United Nations, has engaged quite a lot over the past several years. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Rabat Plan of Action that was developed under the auspices of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, which is a declaration on how to tackle hate speech and xenophobic, racist hate speech that could incite to violence. And our office was also engaged in that process, and as a result of it, we have for the past couple of years worked on another project that is closely associated with it, and it's working with religious leaders and actors across the globe, looking at the role that they can play as people who have often a big influence and a strong voice within their communities, within their constituencies, to be positive forces for prevention, for promoting tolerance and peace and inclusiveness. So throughout the last 2 years, our office has worked to develop a plan of action on how religious leaders can prevent incitement to violence that could lead to atrocity crimes. And within this, there are specific recommendations to religious leaders, but also to state actors, to member states, and to media, because I think we all can acknowledge the role that media can play, both in a positive and in a negative way when it comes to hate speech and incitement. If you look back at history of past incidences of genocide or other atrocity crimes, there have been cases where media have played a quite negative role. The case of the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda is a well-known example, where the radio station played a very a key role in disseminating, let's say, dangerous speech and inciting to violence. I'm sure my colleague could also speak to the situation in Srebrenica and the role that media played at the time there. But also in more recent cases, I'm sure you're all aware of Myanmar and the situation of the Rohingya, where the recent report of the fact-finding mission established by the Human Rights Council found that actually new media, Facebook, social media, played a very important role in facilitating the spread of negative messages that had an impact on the violence perpetrated against the Rohingya and the overall, let's say, discrimination that they face in Myanmar. So it's from this perspective that our office engages with incitement to violence and hate speech to prevent it, because we see it as one of the foremost risk factors associated with these crimes, and you can see, as I mentioned, how they've been used in past instances. And I just wanted to highlight, since my understanding is that most of you are media people, the recommendation in this plan of action, and it's 5 main ones, but I would recommend you also to look at it. It's also available on our website. And the first one is to apply ethical standards of journalism to counter violence, or to counter incitement to violence. But of course, balancing, as you know, there's always a balance between hate speech, incitement to violence, and the right of freedom of expression and opinion. Also to engage more with the new and social media, to apply similar ethical standards that I think have been developed for quite a long time for traditional journalism, to also apply to these new forums of media where we all receive a lot of our information today. And it's also to work with these different actors, I think especially out in the field. Through our engagement with religious leaders, we've really seen how they can be a positive force for spreading messages of peace and of tolerance and inclusiveness, but that they often need a platform to kind of accelerate their messages, and so to help them be able to do that the same way that negative messages are being facilitated very easily. We also need the positive messages to be able to counter that. So I think I will stop here, and if you have specific questions on current situations or specific topics, I think I would be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Maria. We will have an opportunity for questions after both speakers have finished. I'd now like to introduce Senakid Kanilovic, who is from Srebrenica in eastern Bosnia. Srebrenica, as I'm sure you all know, was the scene of a huge wipeout of genocidal murders run amok on essentially one day, July 11, 1995. Senakid somehow managed to escape this genocide, in which other members of his family unfortunately did not survive. He found his way to New York, at which point his original academic training kicked in, which is in sciences. He is now, like our co-chair, Bob Schick, he is a faculty member of the City University of New York, in fact, teaching chemistry at Borough Manhattan Community College in Lower Manhattan. Senakid Kalilovic. Senakid has a presentation for us, and will also be able to show us on his map exactly where Srebrenica is and how it relates geographically to the rest of the now independent Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Tsenakit Khalilovic.
Thank you very much, George. You hear me? So, thank you for invitation. Eastern Bosnia, that is city Srebrenica, that was Yugoslavia. I was born in 1972, and very important to mention that during Yugoslavia we used to live all together, and Yugoslavia was consists of 6 republic, and my city belonged to the Bosnia. Now Bosnia is state, as you know. So 1990 in Yugoslavia start to break. In Yugoslavia people, especially politicians, start to talk like, let's say, great words, religion, politics, nation, something like that. But also important to tell you that we live together. We didn't live next to each other, we live all together, like over here in the United States. One building, different nation, different religion. And also it's important to mention that in that time, nobody look who is who. And it wasn't important. And the people in Yugoslavia wasn't so religious in that time, because during the Tito, he was president for 35 years of Yugoslavia, and that government was had only one part, that was communist part, but it wasn't really communism. It was like more social country and socialism. So 1990s start some problems, and people start to talk who is who, start to talk about division. By my personal opinion, it's come from politics. So in 1992, Bosnia and Herzegovina, after in 1991, Slovenia and Croatia as the members of Yugoslav state, they claimed independence in and Macedonia also, third one, and Bosnia and Herzegovina was fourth one republic who claimed independence of Yugoslavia. Problem started because in Yugoslavia, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, used to live together for 10 centuries, 3 nations: Bosniaks, originally Muslims, and Orthodox by religion. They claim that they are Serbs, and Catholics, Croats. So the war started in 1992, but influence also was from outside, from Serbia and Croatia. And war started in 1992, and one more problem was in Yugoslavia, because Belgrade, when I'm saying, sometimes maybe I will use word Serbs or Croats, I don't mean all nations, I mean politics, or where they are come from Belgrade and Zagreb. And in that time, Yugoslav people army destroyed also, and Yugoslav people army converted to the Serb army. And the command was in Belgrade. And Yugoslav people army start to control as much as possible of former Yugoslavia, including Bosnia and Herzegovina. Because by constitution in Yugoslavia, nobody could claim independence. And the leader of Serbian politician was Milosevic. He tried to save Yugoslavia, and he didn't. He said whoever is going out, whoever is claim independence, could face some trouble, because all command and officers mostly used to be Serbs. So, but problem wasn't biggest problem in 1992 in Srebrenica, because Srebrenica is bordering with Serbia, wasn't Yugoslav People Army, it wasn't paramilitary armies like White Eagles. They called them like White Eagles, Arkan's Tigers, but definitely they had influence from Belgrade. In 1992, in April 17, they occupied Srebrenica, just come to Srebrenica and rob whatever they could, and kill approximately around 100 people, civilians, whoever they find. And in the beginning, they choose who will kill, because people who are against Serbia, or people, if they know who are against Yugoslav People Army or against Milosevic, they kill. They selected that in the beginning people, and they controlled Srebrenica for almost 1 month. In May 8, 1992, territorial defense of Srebrenica, they fight a little bit with that paramilitary units, and they made a freedom of Srebrenica. But in Srebrenica, every stores and everything was robbed. So we didn't have phones, electricity, any supply, and we started to be hungry in the beginning, because from 3 sides around Srebrenica is Serbia, and one side controlled already paramilitary units of Serbian paramilitary units. And it was terrible life during the 1992 years. Every day we experience grenading, shooting, killing people, killing civilians. So I have also I have data that it says that is during 1992 in Srebrenica was killed 3,166 people. 3,166 people, but let me tell you that Srebrenica is a small city with population before the war started. It was 37,000, but when war started, a lot of population left Srebrenica, but also more population come from outer cities of Srebrenica, as Bratunac, Vlasenica, Visegrad, Foča, Zvornik, because all that city felt already under Serbian units, and all people they did ethnically cleanse, and all people were killed or ethnically kicked out. So that's territory around Srebrenica was like homogeneous in that time. And I would like to mention that in that cities, majority was Bosniaks, originally Muslims, but nobody cared about that. And even if somebody wasn't in politics, somebody wasn't included in anything, they didn't choose or they didn't select. They just execute all people and or kill people or put them in camps, and that was so terrible time. In December 1992, in Srebrenica, people started to die because no food, no electricity. We couldn't get food from anywhere, and really some people died. And we did appeal to the government in Sarajevo, and they did appeal to the United Nations that we need some help, otherwise we are going to be all die. One time humanitarian aid came in Srebrenica during 1992, and in the beginning of 1993 again it stopped because Serbian forces stopped it rob it or return it back to the Belgrade. Fortunately, in March 1993, United Nations came in Srebrenica. That was agreement with government in Sarajevo and United Nations. And we got some medicine, we got a food, and sheltering stopped, and military fighting stopped, and the life started to come to normal. And really, in that time, United Nations saved a lot of lives. In that time, Srebrenica had about 50,000 people, maybe less than 1,000 native Srebrenica's people, but around 40 people from cities around Srebrenica. So that was like something like new life. And we felt in that time that definitely we are saved. So unfortunately I cannot over here because light is so strong, and I have a pointer over here, I cannot explain. But let me tell you that this area...
Stand up and point. Stand up and point.
Yeah, over here is Srebrenica, and the Serbian forces, like commander was Karadzic, he was politician, and he tried all this area to make ethnically clean, from Foča to Brčko. But all that cities, 9, 10 cities, Bosniaks used to be majority. Somewhere 60% Bosniaks, somewhere 70%, somewhere 65%. And in the 1993, this is Srebrenica, it was like enclave. All cities from Visegrad, Čajniče, Cerska, Konjević Polje, Zvornik, Brčko, Bijeljina, Ugljevik, everything until Tuzla, Vlasenica, until Sokolac, everything was ethnically clean. And a lot of people from that cities go to the Tuzla or whatever, some of them come to the Srebrenica. And Srebrenica in that time had around between 50 and 55 people. And a lot of people tried, 1,000 people, 50 to 55,000 people, thank you. And people tried because life was very, very difficult and terrible. People didn't have food, didn't have apartments, didn't have a lot of apartments, even in Srebrenica was destroyed because every day grenading. And they tried through the mountains to reach Tuzla or even Sarajevo. But all that territory they had to go by foot. No, we didn't have a gas, no car, no electricity, nothing. So when UNPROFOR came, life changed for 180 degrees. And in that time, we thought definitely that we saved. In 1993, in March, Commander on UNPROFOR, Philippe Morion, he promised. Huh?
UNPROFOR, ladies and gentlemen, UNPROFOR was the UN force.
UN force, protective forces.
Protective force for Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Thank you. And he promised in Srebrenica in March, and he said words, I'm repeat his words, you are saved from today. And we believe like that. And agreement was that Srebrenica become demilitarized zone protected by United Nations. And United Nations brings a lot of resolutions about that. I don't know numbers of that resolution. It is every 10, 15 days, new resolution, but we believe like that. In 1993, the fighting stopped, but sometimes the Serbian forces, they grenade, but it is not too much killing. 1994, it started a little bit more, and as I noticed, I don't know what United Nations soldiers did, but I know that in the beginning, when Canadian contingent of United Nations UNPROFOR came to the Srebrenica, they had somehow around 700 people. But in the beginning of 1995, it was only 400 people. The number of soldiers reduced month by month. I don't know why and who did that. But in 1994, that was Dutch contingent on the United Nations of military. And in 1995, I heard on the radio and the TV when Karadzic said that he is going attack Srebrenica. Also Žepa was very small enclave with somehow around 10,000-15,000 people. He said that he is going to attack Srebrenica and Žepa. That was in May 1995. And I was wondering, and everybody didn't believe that could happen that. So in July 4, 1995, attack started. And attack started to the Srebrenica, and the people didn't know what to do. So, commander of Serbian forces, I mean Serb army, Mladic, he asked the civilians, representatives and civilian government from Srebrenica to come talk to him about situation. And because we knew in that time that it is very difficult to save a life, and that we are under Mladic's hands, and we knew that Mladic will not choose that he will just kill a lot of people. That's why a lot of people, including boys and some women, young women, they decide to go through the mountains from Srebrenica to Tuzla. It is somehow about 60 miles. And about 15,000 people went to the mountains. And some people go to the Potocari. That the Potocari that was UN camp, and UN, United Nations, they protected that people. Around maybe 40,000 people was down. And Mladic, he offered buses to transfer that people to the Tuzla or whatever. And also he asked people, oh, can you stay? You could choose to stay in the Srebrenica, but really people couldn't stay in Srebrenica because them houses burned already. And the people choose to go to the Tuzla. So that's happened, and around 8,300 people were killed. The Mladic take out boys from 10 years and to 7 years old, mostly men, and some women were killed also, and some women were raped. So the genocide has happened, and it is not terrible thing what happened. Something terrible in my soul happened later to me. I lost my 3 brothers, and I lost my father, and I lost a lot of relatives. So I never account my number of relatives, because when I try to account them, images are in front of, and definitely I lost myself. One time my mother told me, oh my son, you lost 70 relatives. So it was terrible time. She always cried, and a lot of mothers, a lot of sisters died already because they got diabetes or they got sick, and a lot of them are died already. So My purpose and my goal is to send a message to United Nations and all people of world. We should prevent anything that's happened anywhere genocide, and we should connect to each other. Doesn't matter what political orientations we are, doesn't matter what nations we are, no matter what languages we are talking, we have to prevent that things, and we have to recognize people who are trying to do violence to another people. Definitely, and we have to recognize and point that people, because after that I thought a lot of times about, and I divide the people only by two bases. First base is knowledgeable and unknowledgeable people, and second base how I divide the people that's good and bad people. So that's my message. Thank you very much. Also, just 1 second, I wrote a book about Srebrenica. The name is Fate of Srebrenica. You could have it on Amazon.com. If you wish to buy, you could find a lot of things what I wrote and what happened in Srebrenica. Thank you very much.
Mic, please, Robert. Press the button. Okay. And speak close to the microphone.
Srebrenica occurred in 1995, just after the Rwandan genocide. And it seems to me in both situations, the UN force, Canadians in the case of Rwanda, and Dutch in the case of Srebrenica, were marginalized by the warring parties. My question is, why were these forces marginalized, these peacekeeping forces, A? And B, what is the UN working on to ensure that these forces are not marginalized next time, considering that right now you have forces in quite a few countries, particularly on the continent of Africa?
And if relevant, say where you're from. Press the button. You're now live.
Okay. Thanks for the presentation. My name is Sidi Lee. I'm a PhD student at Rutgers University, majoring in global affairs.
At which institution? I'm sorry.
Rutgers University.
Rutgers.
In the program of global affairs. I'm a PhD student. And I'm interested in your ideas, how the use of technology or the media in terms of prevention of genocide, how can we use this to recognize the potential threats, or how can we mitigate this? Is there any idea that you can think, okay, it would have been nice if you were there, like this kind of technology back then?
Okay, and one more question? All right, why don't you take it first, and then you can speak to it as well.
So for the first question, I can't give you a detailed answer because I think for each of the situations they were context specific. For every peacekeeping situation, the mandate comes from the Security Council through a Security Council resolution. So both the setup, the mandate, the powers that they have in each context varies. It's not uniform across. But of course, in the context of both Rwanda and Srebrenica, the failures of it are largely acknowledged by the UN, but also by the many of the members of the Security Council, that they weren't given enough, let's say, power or enough resources to intervene, to prevent, but then also to halt once the crimes were ongoing. For the case of Rwanda, for example, a lot of the forces were pulled out just shortly before the start of the worst of the violence. So the contingents that was left, they didn't really have enough resources to be able to do what I'm sure they would have wanted to do. Oftentimes they operate within the mandate that they have, of course. Oftentimes it's peacekeeping, so issues of engagement are very specific to the mandate and the resolution that they have. But that said, of course, all peacekeeping missions, I think all of them, or next to all of them today, have a mandate related to protection of civilians, because that is the core of why peacekeepers exist and the whole function of having peacekeepers. And it's also closely connected to other reforms within the UN during Ban Ki-moon's time with the human rights up front, making sure that everybody within the UN knows its obligations when it comes to protecting populations during situations of crisis. And in the case of South Sudan, for example, when the violence started, the recourse that they took, the peacekeeping missions, was to open their gates and let people who were fleeing the violence come in and seek protection. And many of them are still, I think it's around 200,000 people who are still in temporary camps around the UNMISS bases in various cities across South Sudan. So protection of civilians is very much there as a core part of the mandate, but how it looks in each mission is a little bit different, and it depends on the resolution. But of course, it's part of the responsibility of the UN as the people who are there on the ground, but also it comes down to how the mandate is formulated by the Security Council, and that's the responsibility of the member states on the Security Council to make sure that when you send peacekeepers, then they have the mandate that they need, they have also the resources that they need, etc.
I'd like to just add something here. If I can throw out the question for you to think about, what do Rwanda, essentially Bosnia-Herzegovina, and largely South Sudan as well have in common? They're all landlocked countries, and there's a limit to what you can do in the landlocked countries. You can't send troops in the way we did into Somalia. God knows we got messed up with it. But Mogadishu was a coastal city. Somalia is an entirely coastal country. Rwanda is all the way stuck between Congo and Tanzania. Bosnia-Herzegovina, although it is a tiny little corridor to the Adriatic, it's essentially inaccessible, is basically a landlocked country, and there's no way to get in there other than send troops in, airborne troops. Anything you would like to add, Sinathi?
Yeah, I think so that his question is, he mentioned Canadian contingent during the genocide in Srebrenica wasn't Canadian contingent. They came 1993 and they replaced with Dutch in 1994. So that was Dutch troops. So also I think so that's how media could prevent genocide or things, and how does correctly inform. It is depends of politics also, because in 1993 I know in Srebrenica the Serbian troops and the Serbian politicians, they had respect to the United Nations and United Nations forces. But during the time when they saw that they could send grenades to the civilians and take humanitarian aid or return it back, and in that time that they never punished with anyone, and they saw that they could do a lot more. And that's why I think so that United Nations, the soldiers and commanders of United Nations, Dutch, they did their job good, but they didn't have a power, definitely. And I know that a commander of UN troops in Srebrenica, I didn't hear, but I know that that was message from government of civilian government of Srebrenica that NATO is going bombing Serbs troops. That will happen in the July 10. That he promised, but it wasn't happen. I think so that somebody order that shouldn't be like bombing, and only 1 or 2 airplanes in the 11 July when Mladic already was in Srebrenica, they just come and bomb only one rocket or something like that. That was finished. So I think so that United Nations should have all person in United Nations should have the same goal, and that's it.